The masters of makeshift. The Horizon station hung in space like a mechanical spider at the center of an intricate web. What had started as a simple orbital repair facility for Earth's early interstellar vessels had grown into something far more impressive over the last decade. From the observation deck, Station Director Maya Chen watched as 6 ships approached, none of them human in design. "Another busy day," remarked her deputy, Rajiv, handing her a steaming cup of coffee. "That Norillian freighter is back again. 3rd time this month." Maya nodded, taking a sip. "They could have gone to any of the Centauri outposts, but they came back to us instead. That says something." What it said was something that still surprised most humans, but had become an accepted fact throughout this arm of the galaxy. When it came to fixing ships, humans were simply the best. Not the most advanced, not the most technically sophisticated. Just the best at making things work again when nothing else would. The largest incoming vessel, a crystalline structure that seemed to ripple as it moved, caught Maya's attention. "Is that a Vasheri diplomatic vessel?" Rajiv checked his tablet. "Yes, the Eternal Harmony. They're reporting cascading failures in their quantum navigation array. Already been to 3 other repair stations, 2 Ixidron, and 1 Vasheri. No one could fix it." Maya smiled. "Well, they've come to the right place. Who's free to take lead?" "Jackson's team just finished with the Tellerate scout ship." "Perfect. Tell him to take Zoe. She's got the best feel for Vasheri tech." As Maya and Rajiv coordinated the incoming traffic, Chief Engineer Dave Jackson was already reviewing the preliminary scans of the Eternal Harmony. The Vasheri were among the most technologically advanced species in known space, elegant, precise, and remarkably arrogant about their engineering. "They're not going to like us poking around in there," said Zoe Chen, no relation to the director, a gifted engineer who had developed a reputation for understanding alien tech intuitively. At 28, she was younger than most senior engineers, but her talent was undeniable. "They'll like it even less if their ship stays broken," Dave replied, scratching his salt and pepper beard. "Besides, that's why the director assigned you. You speak their language, metaphorically speaking." The Eternal Harmony docked with a precision that belied its malfunctioning systems. As the airlock cycled, Dave and Zoe stood ready with their diagnostic kits. The first Vasheri to emerge stood nearly 7 feet tall, skin shimmering with iridescent patterns that seemed to flow like oil on water. Behind it came 3 others, all wearing what humans had learned were the insignia of their engineering caste. "I am Sentinel Tal Vashin," the first one said, its translator rendering its harmonic speech into English. "We require repair services for our navigation array." Dave stepped forward. "Dave Jackson, Chief Engineer. This is Zoe Chen, our Vasheri Systems Specialist. We've reviewed your initial scans and are ready to help." The Vasheri skin patterns shifted to something that those familiar with their species would recognize as skepticism. "Your station comes highly recommended, but we must inform you that our vessel employs proprietary technologies. 3 other facilities have already failed to resolve our issue." Zoe stepped forward. "We understand, Sentinel. We're not looking to steal your secrets. We just want to get you moving again. Sometimes a fresh perspective is all that's needed." The Vasheri conferred briefly among themselves in their native tongue before the leader responded. "Very well. You may examine the primary array housing, but certain subsystems will remain sealed under diplomatic protocols." Dave smiled. "We'll work with whatever access you can provide." As they followed the Vasheri into their ship, Zoe whispered to Dave, 10 credits says the problem isn't even in the parts they'll let us see." "No bet," Dave whispered back. "That's practically guaranteed." The interior of the Vasheri vessel was as beautiful as it was complex. Corridors of seamless material that seemed to glow from within, with control interfaces that appeared and disappeared as needed. The Vasheri led them to a chamber near the center of the ship, where a massive crystalline structure pulsed with gentle blue light. "This is the primary quantum navigation housing," explained Talvashin. The system has been experiencing recursive errors that have rendered accurate plotting impossible. We can provide you with the diagnostic reports from the previous repair attempts. Dave nodded. That would be helpful. Zoe, what do you think? Zoe was already circling the structure, her eyes taking in details that most would miss. The housing seems intact. No obvious physical damage. She pulled out a specialized scanner of her own design. May I? The Vasheri hesitated but nodded. Zoe began a careful scan of the navigation array, her device emitting soft beeps and chirps as it worked. Interesting, she muttered. Very interesting. What do you see? Dave asked. Well, for one thing, the quantum entanglement patterns are showing signs of desynchronization. But, she frowned, adjusting her scanner, it's not random. There's a pattern to the degradation. The lead Vasheri engineer stepped forward. We detected the same. Our conclusion was that the primary resonance matrix has developed a manufacturing flaw that is only now manifesting. Zoe shook her head. I don't think so. This looks more like external interference that's been gradually accumulating in the system. She turned to the Vasheri. When did you first notice the problems? Approximately 37 standard days ago, after we passed through the Kepler Nebula. That tracks, Zoe said, more to herself than the others. The nebula has unusual radiation patterns. I think particles from the nebula have been gradually contaminating your quantum field. The Vasheri engineers exchanged glances, their skin patterns reflecting what seemed to be doubt. That is not possible, stated one of them firmly. Our shielding would prevent such contamination. Dave stepped in. Actually, we've seen something similar with Arcturian vessels. The Kepler Nebula has some properties that can, let's say, slip through conventional shielding. What would you propose as a solution? Asked Talvashin, skepticism evident in his tone. Zoe looked up from her scanner. Ideally, we'd perform a complete purge and realignment of the quantum field. But to do that properly, we'd need access to the secondary resonance chambers. The statement hung in the air. The secondary chambers were undoubtedly part of the sealed-under diplomatic protocol systems. That is not possible, said Talvashin flatly. Dave and Zoe exchanged a glance. This was a familiar dance with advanced species. Their technology was often considered too sensitive to share, even when it needed fixing. In that case, Zoe said slowly, we'll need to get creative. Back in the station's engineering bay, Dave, Zoe, and a small team of specialists gathered around a holographic model of the Vasheri navigation system, or at least, the parts they'd been allowed to scan. If we can't access the secondary chambers, Zoe explained, we'll need to build an external purging mechanism that can work through the primary array. One of the other engineers, a quantum specialist named Miguel, shook his head. That's like trying to clean a house by spraying water through the mailbox. Exactly, Zoe grinned. But what if the water was specifically designed to seek out and neutralize only certain particles? You're talking about programmable matter, said Rachel, another team member. The Vasheri use crystalline quantum computing. We'd need something that can interface with their systems without triggering security protocols. That's where this comes in, Zoe said, pulling up schematics for a device of her own design. I've been working on a universal interface that uses partially entangled quantum states to communicate with alien systems. It's not perfect, but it might just work here. Dave studied the design. This is still experimental, Zoe. Have you tested it on anything like Vasheri tech before? Not directly, but I've run simulations based on what we know of their systems. It's our best shot without full access. While the team worked on Zoe's solution, Maya was dealing with another situation in her office. A transmission had come in from Vasheri High Command, expressing concern about their diplomatic vessel being worked on by humans. I assure you, Maya said to the imposing Vasheri on her screen, we respect your technological sovereignty completely. Our team is working only on the affected systems with the full cooperation of Sentinel Talvashin. The Eternal Harmony carries sensitive diplomatic information. Any compromise would have serious consequences for human-Vasheri relations. Maya kept her diplomatic smile in place. I understand your concerns. However, your vessel has already visited 3 other repair facilities without success. Our team believes they've identified the problem and are developing a solution that doesn't require access to your protected systems. The Vasheri seems surprised. Without access to the secondary resonance chambers. That is unlikely, perhaps for others. But with all due respect, resourcefulness is a human specialty. After 48 hours of intense work, testing, and refinement, Zoe's team had produced what looked like a crystalline spider, a device that could attach to the primary navigation array and gradually purge the nebula's exotic particles from the quantum field. It's ready, Zoe announced to Talvashine, who had been monitoring their progress with increasing interest. This device will interface with your primary array and gradually clean the quantum field without needing direct access to the secondary chambers. The Vasheri engineers studied the device with obvious suspicion. How can you be certain this won't damage our systems further? We've designed it to self-terminate if it detects any negative reactions, Dave explained. And we've incorporated elements of Vasheri crystalline technology, based on publicly available information, he added quickly, seeing the Vasheri's reaction. After much deliberation, Talvashine reluctantly agreed to the procedure. We will monitor every aspect of this process, he warned. We wouldn't have it any other way, Zoe assured him. The installation was tense. Zoe carefully attached the device to a specific node on the primary array, her hand steady despite the pressure. As it made contact, the device seemed to come alive, its crystalline structure pulsing in harmony with the Vasheri system. Integration successful, she reported. Now we wait. For 6 hours, the device worked silently, gradually purging the exotic particles that had contaminated the Vasheri's quantum field. The ship's diagnostic systems initially reported no change, then slight improvements, and finally, a complete restoration of navigation capabilities. Talvashine's skin patterns shifted to something new. What humans would later learn was an expression of amazed respect. It appears your solution has succeeded where 3 advanced facilities failed, the Sentinel acknowledged. The navigation array is functioning at 99.7% efficiency, better than before we entered the nebula. Dave clapped Zoe on the shoulder. That's what we do here at Horizon. As the team began packing up their equipment, Talvashine approached Zoe. Engineer Chen, your approach was unconventional. Our technicians would never have considered an external purging mechanism. Zoe smiled. Sometimes the best solutions come from working with limitations rather than against them. Indeed. The Vasheri hesitated, then continued. Our Central Engineering Guild would be interested in discussing a more formal exchange of repair methodologies with your station. Dave tried not to look too shocked. The Vasheri were notorious for their technological isolationism. We'd be honored, Zoe replied simply. As the Eternal Harmony prepared to depart, news of its successful repair had already spread throughout the station and beyond. 3 more Vasheri vessels had requested docking permissions for various repairs, and a Morillian science vessel had diverted course to Horizon rather than continuing to their own repair facilities. Maya found Dave and Zoe in the observation lounge, watching the Vasheri ship's graceful departure. I hear congratulations are in order, she said, and apparently we're about to become the preferred repair station for Vasheri vessels in this sector. Zoe looked surprised. Really? They seem so reluctant to let us touch their systems. Results speak louder than pride, Maya replied. Even for the Vasheri. She handed them both a glass of champagne from a tray a staff member had brought in. To the impossible fixers of Horizon Station. As they raised their glasses, another alert sounded. A new arrival requesting emergency docking. On the main screen, they saw a massive vessel of unfamiliar design, parts of its hull dark and clearly damaged. What is that? Dave asked, leaning forward. Maya checked her tablet and her eyes widened. It's a Coridian dreadnought. They've never come this far into human space before. Zoe took a last sip of her champagne and set down the glass. Well, looks like our reputation is spreading faster than we thought. They're reporting catastrophic failures in multiple systems. Maya read from the incoming transmission. They say they've heard humans can fix the unfixable. Dave and Zoe exchanged a look, both already thinking through the possibilities and challenges of working on a completely new alien system. Well, Dave said with a growing smile, let's not keep them waiting. The impossible fix. The Caridian dreadnought Stormbrinker loomed in the docking bay like a wounded predator, massive, dangerous, and clearly hurting. At over 2 kilometers long, it dwarfed Horizon Station itself, requiring special external docking procedures that hadn't been used in years. What do we know about the Caridians? Zoe asked as she, Dave, and an expanded engineering team prepared to board the alien vessel. Not much, replied Raj, the station's xenotechnology specialist. They're intensely private, militaristic. Their technology is believed to be at least a century ahead of Earth's in weapons and propulsion, but they've never shared it or allowed outsiders to study it. Dave checked his equipment one last time, and yet here they are, asking for our help. Desperation makes for strange dockfellows, Maya said, joining the team for the initial contact. As station director, she normally wouldn't participate in repair operations, but the arrival of the Caridians was diplomatically significant enough to warrant her presence. The Caridian delegation that met them at the airlock was unlike anything the Horizon team had encountered before. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, they wore exoskeletal armor that seemed to move with them like a second skin. Their faces were hidden behind opaque visors, and their voices came through translators with a rumbling, metallic quality. I am War Commander Krexfall, announced the leader, towering over even the tallest humans. Our vessel has suffered critical damage during an encounter with spatial anomalies. Your station's reputation has reached even Caridian space. Maya stepped forward. Director Maya Chen, we're honored by your trust and will do everything possible to assist you. This is our chief engineer, Dave Jackson, and our top systems specialist, Zoe Chen. The War Commander's helmet tilted slightly as he regarded the humans. Our internal systems are failing. Life support is compromised on 3 decks. Weapons and defensive systems are non-operational. May I ask what type of spatial anomalies you encountered? Zoe inquired. There was a pause before the War Commander answered. A region of space where natural laws fluctuated. We lost 2 escort vessels before escaping. Dave and Zoe exchanged glances. That sounded like a gravity well distortion or maybe a temporal rift. Both dangerous and both capable of wreaking havoc on even the most advanced systems. We'll need to conduct initial diagnostics, Dave explained. With your permission, we'd like to begin with your life support and propulsion systems, then work our way to the other affected areas. You will be escorted at all times, Krexfall stated firmly. Certain sections remain restricted. Of course, Maya nodded. We respect your security protocols. As they were led deeper into the massive ship, the Horizon team began to appreciate the scale of the challenge before them. The Caridian vessel was unlike anything they'd ever worked on. Its technology a strange blend of mechanical and biological components, with systems that seemed to pulse and shift like living tissue. This isn't like anything in our databases, Raj whispered to Zoe as they followed their escorts. Look at the power conduits. They're almost vascular. Zoe nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. Biomechanical integration. I've seen theoretical papers on it, but nothing this advanced. They arrived at what appeared to be a central control hub. Here, the damage was evident. Panels flickered with unstable energy, and what looked like circuit pathways pulsed with irregular patterns, like a heart in fibrillation. Our primary life support nexus, explained a Caridian engineer, their translator struggling to find human equivalents for some terms. The system is rejecting corrections. It does not recognize its own components after the anomaly exposure. Dave stepped closer, careful not to touch anything without permission. May I scan this section? After receiving a nod from the war commander, Dave ran his diagnostic tool over the pulsing circuits. The readings made him frown. These components are showing quantum state fluctuations. It's like they're existing in multiple configurations simultaneously. Zoe joined him, studying her own scanner. The anomaly must have exposed them to quantum uncertainty effects. No wonder their system is rejecting corrections. From the computer's perspective, these components are both functioning and failed at the same time. The Caridian engineers conferred among themselves, their language a series of clicks and rumbles that the translators didn't attempt to convert. Can this be repaired? Krexfol finally asked, an edge of concern in his metallic voice. Dave took a deep breath. It's complex, but yes. We'll need to force these components into a single quantum state before the system will accept them again. Essentially, we need to make the computer see them properly. How would you accomplish this? Asked one of the Caridian engineers, skepticism evident despite the translation. Zoe was already pulling up schematics on her tablet. We've developed techniques for quantum state stabilization when working with experimental drives. We'd need to adapt them to your technology, but the principles should be similar. These are military systems, Krexfol reminded them. Our technological sovereignty must be maintained. We understand, Dave assured him. We're not looking to learn how your systems work, just to fix them. Think of it like a doctor who doesn't need to know your personal history to set a broken bone. The analogy seemed to work. After further discussion among themselves, the Caridians agreed to allow the repair attempt, though with strict limitations on what systems the humans could access directly. Back on Horizon Station, Dave and Zoe assembled a larger team to tackle the unprecedented challenge. We're essentially trying to perform quantum surgery on technology we barely understand, Dave explained to the group. The good news is, we don't need to understand everything about how their systems work to fix this specific problem. It's like treating symptoms without knowing the full disease, offered Rachel, who had helped with the Vasheri repair. Exactly, Zoe agreed. We focus on stabilizing the quantum states of the affected components. Once they're back in a single state, their own systems should recognize them again. What do we know about their biomechanical integration? Asked Miguel. If these are partially biological systems, could they heal themselves once we get them stable? Zoe's eyes lit up. That's brilliant, Miguel. If we can get just enough of the system stable, it might be able to repair itself the rest of the way. For 3 days, the team worked almost continuously, developing specialized tools and techniques to address the Caridian ship's unique problems. The alien crew watched with a mixture of suspicion and growing respect as the humans tackled challenges that would have confounded even their own engineers. The breakthrough came on the 4th day. Zoe had been studying the rhythmic pulses of the ship's damaged systems when she noticed something significant. They're not random, she told Dave excitedly. The fluctuations follow a pattern, like a heartbeat, but with quantum variables. I think the system is trying to stabilize itself, but it can't quite manage it without help. Like a person trying to regain a regular heartbeat after arrhythmia, Dave suggested. Yes, and if we can provide the equivalent of a pacemaker, something to guide it back to a regular pattern, the system might lock back into a single quantum state. The device they created was elegant in its simplicity, a quantum pulsar that could attach to key nodes in the Caridian system and provide a stabilizing influence. It would emit precisely timed energy pulses that would gradually guide the fluctuating components back to a single quantum state. When they presented the solution to Krexfol, the war commander studied the device with obvious caution. This will interface with our central systems. Only temporarily, Dave explained. Once your systems stabilize, it can be removed completely. Think of it as training wheels on a bicycle, necessary at first, but ultimately discarded. After careful consideration and thorough scanning by their own engineers, the Caridians approved the attempt. The installation process was delicate, requiring precise timing and coordination between human and Caridian engineers. As Zoe activated the final connection, the ship's lights flickered momentarily before stabilizing to a steady glow. Initial readings show quantum coherence increasing in the primary node, reported a Caridian engineer, surprise evident in their translated voice. Let it run for at least 6 hours, Zoe advised. The stabilization needs to propagate through the connected systems. The wait was tense. Both species monitored the progress from their respective stations, watching as stability gradually returned to the wounded ship. System by system, the Stormbringer began to heal itself, the biomechanical components responding to the quantum stability by initiating their own repair processes. By the time 24 hours had passed, the ship's life support was fully functional again. Propulsion systems were operating at 87% efficiency, and even the weapons systems, which the humans hadn't directly worked on, were showing signs of recovery. War Commander Krex Hull requested a meeting with the Horizon team in what appeared to be a ceremonial chamber aboard the dreadnought. As the humans entered, they noticed that the Caridians had removed their helmets for the first time, revealing faces that were surprisingly expressive, with scaled skin in deep blues and purples and eyes that seemed to shift color like opals. "Your intervention has saved this vessel and its crew," Krexfol stated formally. "The Caridian Empire acknowledges this debt." Maya bowed slightly. "We're pleased we could help. That's what Horizon Station was built for, helping all spacefaring species keep moving. Your species is unusual," observed one of the Caridian engineers. "Your technology is less advanced than many you repair, yet you succeed where others fail." Dave smiled. "Humans have a long history of making do with what we have. When resources are limited, you get creative." "Innovation born of necessity," Krextfol nodded. "A concept we understand." The war commander hesitated, then continued. "The Caridian Empire has maintained technological isolation for centuries. This has served our security but may have limited our growth in unexpected ways." Zoe caught the significance immediately. Sometimes fresh perspectives can reveal solutions that wouldn't be obvious within a single technological tradition. Indeed, the war commander made a gesture, and an aide brought forward an ornate case. "As recognition of your assistance, the Empire offers this technical exchange. Limited, but sincere. Information on certain material sciences that may benefit your station's repair capabilities." Maya accepted the case with appropriate formality. "We are honored by your trust. Horizon Station will use this knowledge responsibly." As the humans prepared to depart, the Caridian engineer who had worked most closely with Zoe approached her privately. "The quantum pulsar you designed," they said quietly. "It is elegant, not what I would have expected from human technology." Zoe smiled. "Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. Your ship's systems are actually more adaptable than you might have realized. They just needed a little guidance to find their way back." "Perhaps that is true of empires as well as ships," the engineer replied thoughtfully. When the Horizon team returned to the station, they found an unprecedented situation developing. Word had spread quickly throughout nearby sectors. The humans had succeeded in repairing a Caridian dreadnought, where the Caridians' own engineers had been at a loss. The diplomatic implications were significant, but so was the practical outcome. Horizon's docking schedule was suddenly filled to capacity, with vessels from a dozen species requesting repair services. In her office, Maya reviewed the suddenly overwhelming schedule with Dave and Zoe. "We'll need to expand," she said, half amazed and half concerned. "Possibly double our engineering staff within 6 months if this keeps up." "And to think," Dave mused, 10 years ago, people wondered why we'd bother building a repair station when humanity's technology was primitive compared to what was out there." Zoe gazed out the window at the diverse collection of ships now orbiting Horizon, waiting their turn for human ingenuity. "It turns out understanding how things break is just as important as understanding how they work," she said, "and humans have been breaking and fixing things for thousands of years." As if to punctuate her point, an alert sounded. a priority transmission coming in from Earth's diplomatic corps. The face that appeared on Maya's screen was that of the Secretary General himself. Director Chen, he began without preamble. I just received communications from both the Vasheri Confederation and the Coridian Empire. It seems your station has made quite an impression. Maya nodded. We're just doing our job, Mr. Secretary. Well, your job has apparently accomplished what years of diplomatic efforts couldn't. Both powers have expressed interest in expanded relations with Earth, specifically mentioning technical exchange programs. Dave and Zoe exchanged surprised glances. There's more, the Secretary continued. 3 other major powers have contacted us about establishing repair agreements with human stations. It seems we've stumbled upon humanity's greatest export, our ability to fix what others can't. After the call ended, the 3 sat in momentary silence, contemplating the implications. So, Dave finally said with a grin, it turns out humanity's superpower is being the galaxy's best mechanics. Not just mechanics, Zoe corrected. Problem solvers. We see challenges differently. Maya stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars and the ships that traveled between them, ships that increasingly depended on human hands to keep them flying. For centuries we wondered what our place would be among the stars, she said softly. Turns out, we're the ones who keep everyone else flying when things go wrong. As if on cue, another alert sounded, a new arrival requesting emergency docking. On the screen appeared a ship unlike any they'd seen before, its design suggesting it came from beyond the explored sectors. Unknown configuration, Dave read from the incoming data. They're broadcasting in multiple languages, looking for translation. The message finally came through. To the humans of Horizon Station, we have traveled far based on rumors of your abilities. Our vessel suffers from a technological plague that our greatest minds cannot solve. You are our final hope. Maya turned to her team, a smile spreading across her face. Well, you heard them. Let's show them what humans can do. In the growing legend of humanity's place among the stars, it wasn't conquest or even innovation that defined them. It was their uncanny ability to look at the broken pieces and see not what they were, but what they could be again. And in a galaxy of specialists, the generalists had found their calling, fixing the unfixable, one impossible problem at a time.